my legs were shaking on that pedal for the qualifying round. There was just so much to prove. And once I went out and did it, I remember biting my nails right down to the bone, literally waiting for the results. And the results came in, and I had actually qualified first on the grid. Now, one would think that that would give me a load of peace of mind and I'd be elated and jumping around, but it was the reverse. I had this pit of acidity in my stomach. My heart actually sank even more because now there was just so much more to prove. And all night long I had these visions, and I kept telling myself, focus, Renuka, focus, cut out the noise. The next day on that starting grid, I just remember my feet shaking, my hands shaking. I was extremely nervous. And as the lights went green and we, pedal to metal, I remember I was in hot pursuit of the first car in front of me. And of course I had one eye on that rear view mirror, and then the guy behind me flipped. And those millions of emotions, and I still get goosebumps talking about it, went through my stomach, and I flipped that rear view mirror, and I said those lines to myself again, focus, just cut out the noise. And after that, I just drove like a bat out of hell, and I continued driving flat out until I saw these massive yellow flags. I mean, there was a blur. It was just, there was nothing. It was a tunnel vision around me till I saw these yellow flags waving at me. And when yellow flags wave at you on a racing track, it means something is desperately wrong and you need to slow down. So I slowed down, my heart kind of sank, and I felt like, oh God, what have I done wrong? This is my first shot, and I've goofed it up. And I'm smiling now, but I wasn't then. I was very close to tears, trust me. And the marshals ushered me into the pit, and as I got into the pit lane, I remember so clearly getting there into the stands. And I took off my helmet, and I could hear the words, Aila, ye to ladki hai. And then the panic became manic, because my heart really sank even further. I was like, damn, I really messed this up. And my friend Farah, who was also there and co-rallyist, was shaking me, and she was saying, do you know what you've just done? Do you know what you've just done? And I was like, oh my God, I'm gone. This is the end of my racing career. And those 3 seconds between her telling me that and the next few words were like an eternity of doom and gloom. And then I heard those sweet words. You won, but why the hell were you doing an extra lap? And that's when it all sunk into me that, I was so much in this zone of mine. I had just blanked everything out. I hadn't seen the checkered flag, and I'd just beaten a field of 18 very experienced men. So I was elated. I mean, that was 0 to hero in like 15 seconds flat, and I was so happy. It was, I think, one of the most defining moments of my life, winning that race. It not only catapulted me into that automotive career, it also kind of convinced my dad that I wanted to be in the world of racing, and it also taught me what driving is to me. It let me learn that I can focus. I can achieve what people go into the Himalayas and spend, I think, months, years, hours trying to do, meditate and achieve that Zen state of mind. But it's just you, your breath and focus. And that's what I'd done on the track. I just shut everything else out with what I wanted to do. And it's, kind of been a mantra for me for so many years in my life ever after that. So yeah, that's what driving means to me. Funnily enough, of course, I raced, I rallied, I navigated, I did a whole bunch of things after that. And my trophy, my championship trophy, when I actively retired, it was the last win that I had, and I won the championship. It still says Mr. Lalwani on it. And they wanted to change it when they realized that it wasn't a Mr. but a Ms. there. But I kept it that way because it's kind of a reminder of how much further I had to go. Now, if you read my bio on any one of my social media platforms, it says driven. And that is because it is what I am, and it's what driving has made me. It's kind of given me what I had to do. So going back to there, once my dad realized that I, wasn't going to give this world of automobiles up, I worked with him. I built cars from the ground up. I tuned them, I opened them up, and I learned everything I know about cars firsthand working with him. I even tuned my own race cars, and it wasn't really something that people did in those days. So it was kind of odd, but of course it was all about me continuing and doing what I love to do. But Let's start at the beginning. I really loved cars all my life. I grew up around them because my dad had a workshop. He used to build race cars, tune vintage cars, restore them. And every day after school, I'd be taken there, and I'd also be allowed to tinker around because they wanted to keep me busy while they were working. But cut to 16 years, when I actually wanted to pursue a life in automobiles, there wasn't automotive journalism, or there wasn't really much to do in the automotive world. So my dad thought it was better that I pursue an MBA, and that's what I was packed off to do. Of course, it started with commerce, which I hated. So along the way, I wanted to be creative. I started running an interior design business in my college. Did it for a while, and realized it's damn hard to collect money from people. So I decided that I should go out and do something that someone has to pay me over the counter. So with all the money I'd collected from my interior designing days, I actually paid for a course, went and did hairdressing in the UK, and came back and worked at hairdressing for a couple of years. That was 4 or 5 years. And it was when I came back for hairdressing that I collected the money, convinced my dad that I needed a car, bought one of his old race cars without telling him what I was going to do with it, and entered my very first race, which is the story you just heard right at the beginning. And that's how my career in racing started. I think once my dad realized that I wasn't going to give up on this dream, of course the hairdressing went into the background, and I continued to work with him. And like I said, I had this full-fledged rallying career, racing career, and a trophy cabinet full to relive those dreams with. But of course, life's like a river. It takes its own twists and turns, and things slow down, and sometimes they go faster. And then marriage came, and kids came, and I had, my racing and rallying had to take a back seat. I spent time raising my kids, and my husband had a garment export business that needed a load of help. So I continued to work with him, and I worked at merchandising in his garment export business for a while. And then one fine day, I think this is the turning point in my life. Hormuz Sarabji, who was a great friend of mine from the rallying days and is currently the editor of one of the most prominent auto mags and auto channels in India, called me up and said, hey, we're going to do this television show. Would you like to be a part? Because we want someone who knows about cars. And I was like, yes. It's my chance to get back into the world of automobiles again. I think that was the turning point for me. I went and did that screen test, and they gave me a call list, and I just walked around it, and I got the call back. And I remember, the producers asking me this question, like, did you do television before? How were you so cool in front of the camera? So I said, no, I haven't. And they said, no, don't lie to us. And I said, honestly, I'm not. I really haven't. And they said, but how come you were just so chill? People are not so chill with a camera. And I said, look, I'm 30 plus. I have 2 kids. And honestly, if I'm around a car, I couldn't care less what anybody else thinks. And they really laughed at that, and they tell that story, or they told it for a very long time when people came in for auditions, so it became a big joke. But that's how I got my job in automotive journalism. It's been 18 years since, and I've come a very, very, very long way. And when I first started television, I really knew nothing about cameras and lighting and the way things worked. And it's evolved so much also since I joined, and I've had to consistently learn, adapt, develop along the way. But I think it's something that I've always enjoyed doing, and I've learned a lot. And this job has given me thousands of bucket list moments. I mean, driving from Germany to India, or driving across 8 or 9 countries in the ASEAN rally, sitting and dining under an ocean, or jumping off the highest stadium in South Africa on a bungee jump, driving at -30 in China or +40 in the desert, driving Formula cars. I mean, that's a dream for so many people. And I drove the Formula E car. So yeah, I've had many, many defining moments. But if people ask me what was that one moment that stands out and you remember, for me it was crossing the border from India into Pakistan. It was the first time since independence that Indian number plate cars were being allowed to cross over the border into Pakistan. This was the SARC rally. We had organized the rally, and so I was in car number 1 because we were leading the event. And every time we crossed a border, it was kind of perfunctory for the leaders to all get out and with their flags walk in front of the cars. On our side of the border, there were checks and multiple checks and passports being checked, and it was very somber and serious. And all the checking happened and we got into the car. I was alone in the car because the rest of the people in my car were part of, the leadership. They'd gone out and held the flags in front of the car and were walking ahead. And as the gates opened into at Wagah border into the Pakistan side, and I really get goosebumps when I tell this story. There were drums beating, there were rose petals flying in the air, and emotions were running high. And I'm telling you, I still get emotional on that occasion. It was just such a festive moment. It was history being created at that point of time. And I don't think since then Indian number plate cars have driven across the border. Mics were being shoved into my face and I was so close to tears because my family is also from Pakistan. So there were so many emotions running through me. And, I was so overwhelmed with those emotions and I was worried because I said, these guys behind me are all going to laugh at me when I turn around now with tears streaming down my face. And then I turned around and I looked, and India team leader, Pakistan team leader was sitting atop their cars with their flags crossed. They had tears streaming down their eyes. Everybody was super emotional. And I think it was a very, very charged moment. Just that energy is something that I will remember always. We created a little piece of history at that point of time. And, to have been there and experienced it firsthand was just so, so special for me. So yeah, I mean, driving across the world and around the world has just given me so many moments and so much to learn. And a lot of people ask me, so how is it to be a woman in a man's world? And I have to say, I'm lucky that way. I've never really experienced serious bias. There may have been one or two exceptional moments, but I'd say they were exceptions. Because generally my peers, my colleagues, my co-rallyists, the boys around me when I was racing, kind of all treated me as one of the boys. And I think when you know your subject, when you enjoy what you do, it kind of shows, and it really doesn't matter which gender you are, male or female. It's what you're doing and the passion that comes across, and that's been something for me all my life, and I've been lucky. I hear horror stories of other people and how they face gender bias in the same field that I am, automotive journalism. Even across Europe, I hear women journalists talk about it. But I think I've been lucky on that count, and I've never really faced this bias. But there is a perception, and I think it's something that's been ingrained in women's minds over the ages. Women can't drive, and I say bollocks. Put a man in a sari, put him in 9-inch heels, and tell him to drive a car. That's a line I love to say because I don't think he'd even get into the car. He'd trip over before he got there. So yeah, we women can do a lot of things, and there are loads of studies across the world that prove that women are actually safer drivers than men. So don't let anybody ever tell you that. Women can drive just as well as men, and it's been a passion of mine to actually get more women to get across this barrier in their head, to break that myth, to get over it. And a part of what I did a couple of years ago, just before the pandemic hit, was start this series called She Drives Across India. Ford was great enough to give me cars. Autocar gave me the full backing to say, go out and do this. And I had camps for women drivers in 5 cities across India. We wanted to do more, but then the pandemic hit. Where we took women and we actually gave them advanced driver training. We had the top rallyist in India, Gaurav Gill, come and teach them how to drift a car, how to do handbrake turns, and actually let loose behind the wheel. And it was a fabulous experience because the women came in there sort of meek, mild, a little timid, and wondering whether they could do this. Once they saw it was all women at the event, they got a little bit more settled in, and once they came out of the car, they were like a different animal altogether. They were raring to go, and they were like, hey, we can also do this. And I think that elation of getting women to actually feel what I feel behind the wheel, that feeling of power, the feeling of joy, the feeling of being in control, of knowing what you do, is something I thoroughly enjoyed. And hearing women after that and hearing their experiences and them saying, hey, now we can go out and do anything, and we're going to spread this message further, was actually really wonderful, and a unique experience. And a learning for me as well. Never judge a book by its cover came out of knowing that there was this Uber driver from Guwahati, a lady driver, who actually was the quickest we had in all the 5 cities, and she just came out there, was a complete natural and did everything on her own. She was this very quiet, meek, mild person that you would never have imagined would be this crazy person behind the wheel. So it was really a learning experience for me as well, and I'm so glad to have had the opportunity to do it, and I hope to continue it. And I definitely want to do more programs with women. So driving has really taught me so many wonderful things in life. The focus that you heard about, just shut out the noise. And that's something that's helped me a lot, because in this day of younger generation, there are loads of trollers that actually come out and say all kinds of nasty things about women, and I've learned to keep going because I'm confident of what I do, and I just shut out the noise. So yeah, focus is something that I've learned. It's taught me patience, because when you're in a race, you have to learn when to hold back and when to push forward. It's taught me discipline. You have to be extremely disciplined to be a rally driver or a race driver. It's taught me that you'll have many losses in life, so don't get bogged down by them. Pick yourself up, aim higher, and move on. It's taught me to always aim for that podium spot, yeah, and never be happy with just that. Just aim for the top, because that's the only way you're going to get there. It's taught me so many different things in life, and I think it's been a guru of mine in a lot of ways, because what I am today, how driven I am, the person I am, is a lot to do with driving and the experiences that I've had with it. And I have a favorite line of mine which says, why fly when you can watch the world through your windscreen? When you do that, you learn just so much more along the way. And that's the message I'd like to give to everyone. Drive and get driven.